When this meme with this question started circulating last week, all I could do was shake my head. The men are trying to have their gotcha moment with women because they are now asking if they would rather share their feelings with woman or a tree. And most of the women that I saw were like, cool, please choose the tree. But the men really thought that this was a great response to what women were saying as far as why women were team bear. They really felt like they are really sticking it to us by choosing a tree. And I honestly suggest to choose a tree because no woman needs to be trauma dumped on by some random person. If you have that type of situation where you need to share your feelings and you haven't learned how to journal, you haven't learned how to get a self help book, then yes, a tree is going to be your best bet.
So here is the Facebook post. Man versus bear. How about woman versus tree? Men, would you rather tell your feelings to a tree or a woman? Not your woman. A lot of us are older now and found a good woman we can share our feelings with. Just a random woman or a tree. Now, most of us random women do not want to talk to random men. Please choose the tree. Please choose the tree. This next man reminds us or tells us, if you didn't know, that June is Men's Health Month. And many of these men really need to focus on their mental and their physical health. So go ahead and watch these next two creators that are coming after my voice and like, comment, and share.
Ugh. Brother, ugh.
So I guess we're doing this now. I knew there was going to be like a fragile masculine response to the whole man or bear trend, but this isn't such poor taste. And look, I hear you. It's hard out there as a man emotionally, and men's mental health is a very serious and important discussion we should be having as a society. But this is not how you start that discussion. I've seen a few of these posts around already, so sorry, Salamander, for picking on you specifically for this, but I want to explain in good faith and man to man why this is not how you start a discussion about men's mental health and why this is a bad look. So I know you say it's not about the man versus bear question, but by using bear imagery in your posts, and in the case of other posts, literally starting with the story of the man versus bear question, it sets up this trend as a continuation or successor or response to the man versus bear question, and that has some problematic implications. So first off, it comes off as invalidating or dismissing by setting it up as a response or continuation of the trend, by suggesting that the man versus bear trend and the discussion associated with it has run its course, right? It's essentially saying, you know what? We've listened to you talk about your problems and we've had enough of that. It's our turn to talk about our problems. And that's extremely invalidating. The discussion tied to the man versus bear question is not one that disappears with the short attention span of social media. Like maybe the bear trend goes away or dies down, but suggesting that, we've had enough of the discussion is really invalidating. That discussion needs to continue, right? And there have been plenty of men who've been able to engage with that discussion constructive and positive way, right? They validate, support, amplify, and defend women's voices. And in certain circumstances, when they're able, they actually contribute by saying, you know what, I don't trust the bear either because of my personal experience. So there's ways to engage with the bear trend that are not invalidating. This is not it. Second, by choosing to structure this trend this way, it invites comparison with the man or bear question trend. And that comes with implications that the two are asking questions that are somehow similar or pointing to social phenomena that are somehow similar. And they're simply not. It essentially comes across as you saying, oh yeah, you know what? Violence against women is really terrible. You know what else is really bad? When a woman invalidates your feelings. And it's like those two things are just not even remotely the same. They're not even close. To imply that the two would be even similar in any sort of way is just completely missing the point of the man or bear question trend. Third, it kind of comes across as like a defensive response to the man or bear question trend. Like by structuring this way as a successor or a response, it comes across as you saying, oh, you wouldn't choose us over a bear? Well, we wouldn't choose you either. We'd rather have a tree. And it's like, okay, but that's not like the man or bear question trend was not about some sort of social politics, men versus women dunking fest. Like it was a frank discussion about women's experience and the very real social phenomenon. It's a pretty bad problem. And it doesn't have to be about men versus women. And it doesn't have to be suggesting that men don't have it hard either, right? Like it comes across as like, you have it bad, well, we have it bad too. It's like, but you're not part of this discussion. You don't need to center yourself in this discussion by creating a response to their thing. You can just accept that women's experiences with violence are what they are and, be supportive, and then have a completely separate discussion about the difficulties of being a man. Like, those are two separate discussions. We don't need to have a response. It also has this weird, like, defensive whataboutism quality to it, where it's like, oh, you think men are bad? Well, women are bad too. Look what women do. It's like, it's not about that. Like, we don't have to have that kind of discussion. That discourse is not necessary here. And I know you say it's not supposed to be this, but by choosing to structure this trend this way, it really comes across as trying to siphon or divert attention and energy from this man or bear discussion and the wider discussion about violence against women behind it to something about men. So it comes across as, I have something I wanted to talk about, and I see you've got all this attention, so I'm going to try to pull some of that attention to talk about me. Again, centering ourselves in this discourse by piggybacking off of their trend. And it's just, we don't need to do that. These are very separate discussions, and we don't need to reactively piggyback off of some other trend to talk about the topics that we want to talk about. There's other ways to do it. June is coming up. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. There's other platforms and other ways to start this discussion that don't antagonize or minimize or take advantage of a trend that is discussing this very important other topic. Because, like it or not, we as men frequently take away the attention from important women's issues and make it about us, and it's not about us. So we can support that discussion and be and participate in that discussion in respectful ways, and also have our own separate discussions about topics that are important to us, like men's mental health. And we just don't need to do it this way. This is not the way to do it. So again, sorry, Salamander, I know a lot of other people are talking about this. Thank you for being the specific example I'm using here to talk about this trend, but I just felt very strongly about this, that this is not a good way for us to bring up the discussion of men's mental health and the real difficulties of being a man and opening up to people. Like, this is just, I don't think this is a good way to do it. Feel free to tell me otherwise, but I just wanted to share those thoughts because I'm not a fan of this trend. I think it unnecessarily puts us at odds with other people. It doesn't help further the goals of discussing men's mental health, which is to improve conditions, right? So yeah, thank you, and I hope this made sense. And if not, let's have a discussion about it.
Y'all, have you heard men's response to the whole man versus bear question? My friend Maeve just called me. She went on a Tinder date last night and something horrible happened to her. So she met her date at a trendy new restaurant here in Austin. It's full of fucking douchebags. But she said the date was going okay at the beginning. Until she got up to use the restroom and a drunk man at the table next to her reached up her skirt and told her she was pretty. Now, something about Maeve is she is not a timid girl, so she said she smacked him in his face and said, "You look like the target demographic for dude wipes." Ew. You can see why I love her. But her issue was when she got back to the table, obviously upset, and she told her date that she wanted to ask if they could move tables so she didn't have to be next to these drunk men. And her date said to her, "Oh, don't overreact, they're just drunk." The food came, they ate, and on their way out, she told him, "Hey, I'm gonna head home." And she said he used his most boyish tone and said, "Oh, come on, I just spent $200. But Maeve said, "No, I am not interested in hanging out anymore, and there's not going to be a second date." And when he asked why, she said, "Well, besides you talking about your Tesla for 35 minutes, you stood by while a man grabbed me and then said I was the one that was overreacting. One of my non-negotiables for a partner is that they're a protector." And she said this man yelled in her face on the sidewalk, then go fuck a bear. This is why we're choosing the tree. Now, Maeve had no fucking idea what he was talking about. Turns out, men's response to the man versus bear is, would you rather talk about your feelings with a woman or a tree? These stupid fucking Tesla douchebags that need to wipe their ass. Go fucking talk to a tree. We want you to.